I'm starting to work on or formulate a theory as to why a loose file stream error occurs. Um, since I can only look at the data superficially through what I call a very simplistic form of application behavioral like analysis, um, it looks like let me okay before I get into that, let me describe let me get a little bit of pretext to all this, and then I can tell you how I'm coming to the conclusion that I'm going to come to. All right, so looking at the load order, which is important, or looking at the gaming sessions, I have been in and out of Sanctuary a lot. Outside of these particular kernel-based things, which I got too, and this geometry, um, I mean, Sanctuary, I come back to here constantly, and I do mean constantly. This is my home base for this character. Everything, the storage is, all my storage is pretty much here. I linked the settlements, so technically I could throw items I collect at any settlement, but I throw them in Sanctuary. So literally, I have traveled here countless number of times, and I've never seen this error right here. So let's bring this up and let's take a look at the buff out stuff. And you can see that finally I have a loose file stream. This is the first time I've had this. Now, when I look at the information on it, if we go over to, let's do this again. Let's go over this way. Let's see. All right, let's open this location. All right, let's grab this PDF. We're going to need this. All right, so let's find. Okay, so here's a mesh and a NIF crash. It says in some cases the crash log might also mention names of plugins. Okay, so here is the thing about this. All right, so here's what I think it is and why I think it is what I'm about ready to say. Okay, so so everything was going great, no crashes at all. Now this has nothing to do. I don't believe this has absolutely anything to do with TidyBots. All right, but you can see where I installed TidyBot. Okay, now in this particular play session, this play session, this play session, this play session, this one, and this one. Well, maybe not that one because that's where the crash happened. TidyBot was not active. He had nothing to do. So I go into his options and I change the options so that he will widen his scrap area. Okay, so he still he was still sitting there in his pod, his little platform, and then here in this game save here, this one right here, this 2 hour and something one, this one right here, he decides to take off, and that's fine. I exit out of the game, which creates this gaming session entry. Go do some coding, come back, fire off the game again, which is this 1 minute save. Now TidyBot is out scrapping stuff, and he's scrapping it in a wider area than normal. So in Sanctuary, which I'm here, he actually is going that way this time, but he actually went that way. And as I was running in this direction, in this direction, I got this crash right here, which was a loose file stream. So what I think this is I think this is a situation where objects are getting scrapped while the engine is trying to render them or include them in a rendering type of situation. So imagine that normal scrapping was done while you were right there. Like let's say you were in the work, you're in a workshop mode, and you were scrapping everything. That's how items were scrapped. Now scrapping is done in a script. So as he had scrapped this item, I was actually running in the direction where he was scrapping. And I think at a particular moment when a object is being scrapped and the mesh and all that is being removed from the environment, the game is actually trying to render that cell or environment at the same time. And that is why it's catching a loose file stream. It's in the process of rendering. It's got the mesh in the queue to be rendered. However, it gets removed because it's not being picked up by the player. It's actually being done with a script. So the object got scrapped by a script. But as it's rendering, it's going down that list of things to render. It's got the mesh. It says, okay, I got to find this mesh, but that mesh is no longer there because that object has been removed. So I think it's like a mitigation issue between rendering the cell, and it's catching it right at that moment where it's trying to render that cell or render that object, but the object is being scrapped at the same time, or just briefly scrapped just prior to trying to render it. So that's just looking at the data. I'm going to play around with this some more and see if this comes up again. So hopefully that will help with that particular problem.